Depression. Depression is a mental health condition that slowly drains meaning and color from daily life. It affects how the brain regulates key neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, chemicals responsible for motivation, pleasure, and emotional connection. When these systems fall out of balance, even simple tasks begin to feel overwhelming. You may wake up feeling exhausted despite long hours of sleep. Food loses its taste. Activities that once brought excitement now feel empty or pointless. Depression doesn't announce itself as sadness. Sadness has a cause and a reason. Depression feels more like a constant heaviness or numbness that exists without explanation, even when everything looks fine on the outside. Well-meaning advice like stay positive or go outside misses the point. Depression isn't a mindset you can will away. It's a biological and psychological struggle where the brain has difficulty generating the signals that make joy and motivation possible. Generalized anxiety disorder. Generalized anxiety disorder turns ordinary worry into a nonstop alarm system. The brain stays stuck in threat mode, releasing stress hormones even when there is no real danger present. Everyone worries sometimes about work, money, or relationships. Anxiety disorder removes the off switch. Your mind jumps endlessly from one possible disaster to another, replaying conversations, imagining future failures, and preparing for threats that may never exist. Physically, your body remains tense. Muscles ache, the stomach tightens, and the heart races for no clear reason. Decision-making becomes exhausting because every choice feels dangerous. Even simple actions like sending a message or making a phone call feel loaded with risk. Being told to calm down doesn't help because the problem isn't a lack of logic. It's a nervous system that no longer knows how to distinguish real danger from imagined scenarios. Over time, avoidance grows, shrinking your world and reinforcing the fear it was meant to escape. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. ADHD is a condition where the brain struggles to regulate attention, impulses, and energy levels. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and self-control, functions differently, creating a disconnect between intention and action. People often think ADHD means an inability to focus, but that isn't accurate. Focus exists, sometimes intensely. The challenge is control. Tasks that feel boring or repetitive can feel physically painful to start, while interesting activities can absorb attention for hours without awareness of time. Forgetfulness, missed deadlines, and unfinished projects aren't signs of laziness. They're the result of a brain that doesn't consistently produce enough dopamine to make follow-through feel rewarding. Impulsivity can lead to interruptions, impulsive purchases, or words spoken without filtering. Internally, many people with ADHD are working harder than anyone realizes, constantly battling a mind that refuses to cooperate. The frustration comes from knowing exactly what needs to be done and still being unable to do it. Obsessive-compulsive disorder. Obsessive-compulsive disorder traps the mind in cycles of intrusive thoughts and repetitive behaviors. Obsessions are unwanted thoughts or images that feel urgent and threatening, even when they make no logical sense. These thoughts create intense anxiety, pushing the brain to demand action. Compulsions develop as attempts to reduce that anxiety through repeated checking, cleaning, counting, or mental rituals. The relief is brief, and the cycle restarts almost immediately. People with OCD often recognize that their fears are irrational, but insight doesn't reduce the intensity. The disorder convinces the brain that thoughts themselves carry danger, and that failure to perform rituals will result in catastrophe. OCD isn't about organization or cleanliness. It's about being imprisoned by a mind that refuses to let go. Post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD develops when the brain remains locked in survival mode after a traumatic event. Experiences involving extreme fear or helplessness can disrupt how the brain processes safety and memory. Instead of being stored as past events, traumatic memories resurface as if they are happening in the present. Triggers like sounds, smells, or images can cause sudden flashbacks that bring physical reactions: racing heart, rapid breathing, and overwhelming fear. Sleep becomes disturbed by nightmares. Hypervigilance sets in, making relaxation impossible. Avoidance grows as reminders of the trauma are pushed away, sometimes at the cost of entire parts of life. PTSD isn't weakness. It's a nervous system that never learned how to stand down after the danger ended. Bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder causes shifts between extreme emotional states, primarily mania and depression. These changes aren't mood swings, but deep alterations in brain chemistry that affect energy, judgment, and perception. During manic episodes, energy surges. Sleep becomes unnecessary, ideas feel limitless, and confidence skyrockets. Thoughts race faster than they can be controlled. Risk-taking feels justified, even brilliant. Eventually, the energy collapses into depression, leaving exhaustion, emptiness, and despair behind. The contrast between extremes makes both states more damaging. The unpredictability strains relationships in daily life. The challenge isn't emotion itself, but the lack of control over when and how it arrives. Panic disorder. Panic disorder causes sudden episodes of intense fear driven by false alarms in the brain's fear center. Panic attacks feel physical and immediate, with symptoms that mimic life-threatening emergencies. Heart pounding, chest tightness, dizziness, numbness, and breathlessness create the sensation of losing control or dying. Fear amplifies symptoms, trapping the body in a feedback loop. After the first attack, fear of recurrence becomes constant. Avoidance follows, shrinking the world to places that feel safe. The disorder doesn't just create panic, it creates fear of fear itself. Social anxiety disorder. Social anxiety turns interaction into perceived threat. The brain interprets attention as danger, activating fear responses meant for survival situations. Before speaking, the mind floods with self-criticism in worst-case scenarios. During interactions, attention shifts inward, monitoring every word, movement, and reaction. Afterward, the event is replayed repeatedly, magnifying minor details into imagined failures. This isn't shyness. It's a condition that convinces you visibility equals danger, leading to avoidance and isolation. Not because connection isn't wanted, but because it feels unsafe. Eating disorders. Eating disorders distort the relationship between food, body image, and control. Restriction, binging, and purging behaviors develop as coping mechanisms rather than choices. The disorder frames hunger as achievement and nourishment as failure. Over time, physical damage accumulates, affecting the heart, bones, and organs. Despite appearances, eating disorders are rarely about weight. They are about control, identity, and managing overwhelming emotions in a world that feels uncontrollable. Schizophrenia. Schizophrenia alters perception, thought, and reality itself. Neurochemical disruptions cause hallucinations, delusions, and disorganized thinking that feel entirely real to the person experiencing them. Voices may comment, criticize, or command. Beliefs may form that resist evidence or reassurance. At the same time, motivation and emotional expression may fade. The disorder is often misunderstood and stigmatized. The real danger lies not in violence, but in confusion, fear, and isolation from a reality that no longer feels reliable.